Thank you for tuning in to the 412 Double Play Podcast. I am, as always, your host, Michael Castrogano. Joining me as my double play partner today, Pirates beat writer for the Pittsburgh Post Gazette, co-host of the Pitching In podcast with our friend Michael Christine McHenry. That's his middle name. Don't look it up. Special guest, Jason Mackey. Thanks for jumping on with me today, man. How's the calm before the official off-season storm treating you?
Yeah, it's okay. This is not my favorite time of the calendar. I thrive on the stuff happening and things changing a little bit, even if it's just roster machinations. So I get a little, I don't know what antsy would be the word. I've enjoyed watching the postseason. I think it's been fantastic, but I'm eager for some things to change and some inputs on the Pirates roster and some moves to be made and my evenings to be randomly ruined and that sort of thing, all in a good way.
Sure.
So yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, you're going nonstop, 162 games. I think you covered at least 130, 140 of them. I talked to Andrew Destin a couple weeks ago, and he, I think, covered the other few. But going nonstop, pretty much since spring training down in Bradenton for like 8 months, 9 months, it's kind of tough to hit it all. You're hitting a wall right now. But we had you on back in January.
It's weird. It's weird.
Yeah, it's definitely got to be a weird emotional kind of roller coaster to not have anything going on.
It's fun. Like, I know this probably isn't the point, but this is just like fresh on my brain because it's discussions that have been had in our household. Like you're calibrated to live a certain way. I mean this like with my wife and family and how we run our days and all that stuff. And like, we get used to doing the season and doing the grind thing and going back to the off season. We're like, what do you do? How do you live this life? Like it's almost foreign, and you're kind of trying to readjust into it. And I'd be lying if I said this was my favorite part of the year. It's not. So anyway, that's not why you had me on the podcast. But it's
no, I understand. I don't want to make
it is very real, man. It's a dynamic.
I imagine, and I don't want to make this comp in jest, but like a soldier coming back from war. Because it's just a completely
that's
different
actual stuff. Like I belong nowhere near that conversation, but yes, I know it. Yeah. I know what you're going for.
All right. Well, let's talk baseball then. We had you on back in January ahead of spring training after you broke the news of the Kutch signing, which obviously amazing timing for us. So glad to have you back now with 2 teams left. And we'll talk about that in a second. But first, let's jump into Pirates. So 2023 season, added some vets in the offseason. We had that really fun April, and then things kind of fell apart. Mixed bag of a season overall. Got to see Keller, Oviedo taking steps forward, rookies debuting. Team overall won 14 more games than in 2022. But this was year 4 of Cherington's rebuild. What should fans take away from this year, and what should they expect to see going into this offseason?
Yeah, and I think it looks a little bit different now. Excuse me, as you look at 2 teams that lost 100 games in 2021 in the World Series. The Pirates cannot sell, hey, stay patient with us. This is this process wasn't going to be quick, blah, blah, blah. Like a lot of their stuff has been messaged that way. I don't care. Nobody should care. Like you should expect wins. You should expect over 500. You should expect flirtation with the playoff spot. Like that's a reasonable ask right now. You've had teams that were technically further behind you, surpass you and go further than you've been in a long, long time. So that being said, I think there was some very good things that happened this season. I really do. And I look at the final 2 months and I'm genuinely encouraged by it. I look at what happened in its totality, and we have to remember that it happened without Cruz, Brubaker, Burrows. I'm missing somebody, Velasquez for all but 9 starts, something like that. I mean, that was somebody that was very much in their plans and good. So did I see enough from this team to think that they can get to that destination that I outlined earlier? Yes, I do. I think it's going to take some important moves this offseason. I think it's going to take Ben Cherington sort of finding the right targets. It's going to take Bob Nutting spending to get them. They need pitching. They need pitching in a very bad way. I think they have a move to make at first base. Doesn't necessarily need to be splashy in my mind. We can get more into the nuance there, but anyway, I look at this season largely as a success. I get it. I'm not going to, sit there and be upset at what their build looks like, but it does need to, come to legitimate fruition in 2024.
It's definitely more promising. 2021, they lost 2021 games, 2022, 100 games. Now they're in a little bit more positive position. You mentioned the Rangers in Arizona having lost 100 plus games in 21, now playing in the World Series. And you dropped an article last week or this past week with some comps to the Pirates and how they're going about that, more to the Diamondbacks and how they're built rather than the Rangers, who have gotten more splashy with free agents, Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, DeGrom. But realistically, as a reporter and a fan, as unbiased as you can be, how close are the Pirates to that point where they can build a team that not just can get to the playoffs, but can potentially make a run, can have a solid, 2-3 in the rotation, the bullpen, clutch hitting? Is this something where that can happen next year?
I mean, I can't sit here and say that I see a World Series run in the Pirates. Like I'd be committed for something like that. Do I see a team that can go over 500 and make some noise in the division in the wild card? Yes, I do. And why I feel that way is looking around the diamond at some of the pieces they have. And some questions you should probably ask, not you personally, just like any Pirates fan. Like, do you think Brian Hayes turned a corner this season? Is he going to be good? I would answer yes. Can I bank on an offensive core of like Hayes, Cruz, Sawinski, Reynolds? Yeah, I like that. Do I think that they're going to get more from young guys? Yes, I do. I don't think we've seen anywhere near what Endy Rodriguez and Henry Davis can do, at least offensively. Do I believe in Mitch Keller and Johan Oviedo as starting pitchers? Yes, I do. I think they've got some important pieces coming back, however you want to phrase it. And I go, Skeens, Burrows, Brubaker, if they bring back Velasquez, Solomedo, Chandler, Jared Jones, like there's some pieces there, but you need sort of some transitory help, if you want to call it that. You also need to, I think, add to the rotation to establish a little bit more maybe belief in what's going on. I don't know if that's the right word. Ben Cherington's talked about having 10 guys. Well, they don't have 10 guys. They need to get 10 guys. They need to figure out, Rowanzi, Priester, Ortiz. But I want to see him go out and sign a couple of guys, potentially one to a multi-year deal. Anyway, you can go around here, even look at their bullpen. Like they have pieces that are going to play. They have pieces that won games in a not small or random sample size. They don't have enough. They didn't do it for an entire season. I certainly acknowledge that. But I don't think I can look at 2024 and pardon the double negative here, but think that everything's going to be bad. Like, no, I mean, they have what they need to compete. They just need some help.
Yeah, and now as far as potential free agents, you were on Bucks in the Basement with Craig Toth the other day. You mentioned pitcher Jack Flaherty is a possibility. Yep. There are, of course, some former Pirates who might be looking for a reunion. Putting those aside for now, are there any specific free agents who you think match up well with this team's needs, either first base, pitching, bullpen, etc.?
I mean, I'll go to the first base side in Santana. I think it matches up with needs, desires, in a couple different ways. And I'll circle back to the pitching, but the Santana thing makes a ton of sense for me. And it makes a ton of sense. It might not get any bigger, honestly, than O'Neal Cruz. You want him to play well defensively. Santana is a very good defensive first baseman. You want him to be comfortable, enjoy it here, grow, understand what it is to be a star on a bigger stage. He's healthy. That's going to happen. I think having Carlos here matters. I think it also would help the Pirates if you look at things like, Jared Triolo's playing time or turning over first base to somebody else. Like, this is probably it for Carlos Santana. It's not a natural platoon by any stretch, but at the same time, you can take his playing time and diminish it, and it's not going to be that bad, and sort of split it between him and Triolo, or him and if Malcolm Nunez comes up and produces, or if you want to get Endy Rodriguez at bats over there. I don't know. So Santana is somebody that tracks with me for a very easy sign, shouldn't cost a lot of money. I think the bigger question probably is pitching. And what you do on the pitching side. I'd love to see them sign, Sonny Gray or somebody at the top of the class. I'm not necessarily holding out hope that's going to happen. I was on with Fort, I think it was last night into today, and he threw out Eduardo Rodriguez from Detroit. Wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind them skewing left-handed whatsoever. Go pluck Jose Quintana from the Mets or something by all means. It shouldn't be all retreads, though. There's certainly enough arms out there. Jack Flaherty, as I said with Craig, would be my pick. I look at guys, and the Pirates have a great history of this. You have past performance, and there's been a little bit of a blip, like either different pitch usage, injury, confidence issue, something. And the Pirates can iron out that wrinkle, and then what they offer is opportunity. Jack Flaherty, in my opinion, is that guy. Is that guy. You can give him opportunity. You can give him a prominent role in the starting rotation. Let's not forget that it wasn't long ago this guy was the ace of the Cardinals. He was that good. He has that stuff. Didn't get a bunch of opportunity in Baltimore after the trade. I just look at, you want to sign somebody for a 3-year contract and prove that they're going to be here. Flaherty's that type of guy to me.
I'm not opposed to it. I think that they should try to get, like, in my opinion, which has no bearing on it.
Neither does mine, to be fair.
You at least get to talk to them. I don't think they appreciate my input. But
they don't appreciate mine either, brother. I got news for you.
But I would think if they go for somebody who maybe is more of a risk, like if they bring back Velasquez, if they go for someone like James Paxton, he's kind of had a couple down years and injury plagued with the Red Sox and Yankees.
Yep.
Someone like Frankie Montas, who's had injury issues with the Yankees, I feel like that would be a buy low kind of situation where they have all the potential in the world. And then also get somebody who's been underperforming lately, who's more of a veteran, like Flaherty. Kenta Maeda, I think, would be an interesting pick if they went that route. I would love for them to get like a middle tier. Like they're not going to, you mentioned Sonny Gray. They're not going to get him. They're not going to get Jordan Montgomery, Aaron Nola. But someone kind of in the middle of that class to prove that they want somebody who is currently performing. Is there any chance that they go and you said that they probably won't make a splashy, but is Sherrington going to push chips on the table going into year 5 to try to shore up that pitching?
I mean, yes, I think he's going to. I just think it's, what are the value of those chips? And I'm not trying to have an out here. I mean, if we want to answer in actual names, like, do I think they're going to sign Aaron Nola? No, I don't. Do I think they're going to sign somebody at the top of this free agent pitching class? No, I don't. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. I think, this is something that sort of gets lost in Pirates fans screaming for the Pirates to sign more free agents, which I certainly understand and respect. I'm not saying they're wrong for feeling that way, but think about the other side of it. If you're a free agent and you have better available options, why are you going to go play for the Pirates right now? Why? I mean, 74 or 76 win, like, is that going to be enough to lure anybody? I highly doubt it. They might be lured by money, in which case you're going to have to drastically overpay. But if the guy's good enough, like, he can get similar money there and then a chance to legitimately win a ring with whomever. I just don't see any of those. Like, what the Pirates have to offer is decent money. They should be able to pay Jack Flaherty a competitive rate for what he does. They also offer opportunity, role, the idea of, I think the Pirates' young clubhouse culture, stuff that's happening, like, I think it's acknowledged around the game that, they're on the upswing as opposed to the downswing, put it that way. I think somebody realizes they can come in here in sort of a baseball market in a city and, that is going to explode if they win, which we've seen in the not too distant history. I just don't think that lines up with any of the premium guys in the class. Like, I think you're going to have to take on somebody with a little bit of warts. I'm going through some of the, like, Paxton would be one that fits that category for me. Luis Severino, another one that fits that category. Frankie Montas, somebody who might fit that category. I just don't know if I see, a Sonny Gray, Jordan Montgomery. Those guys are going to want to pitch elsewhere, and I don't blame them for thinking that.
What about international targets? I feel like Yamamoto is probably not going to happen given his past season. No-hitter when he had 10 scouts there. But what about, I forget his first name, but Lee from the Korean baseball organization, I think. Yeah,
I mean, they scout a lot of these guys. Like, they make sense. You're generally looking at overpay, and overpay for taking a chance. I don't know if that lines up with what the Pirates typically do. I mean, I'd love to see them get Yamamoto, and I'm not here to dump water on it because I don't know. I'm not over there, but a lot of times these guys have opened up the door to go do whatever the heck they want. They have teams falling all over themselves to sign them to a contract. And the Pirates will scout and pursue and be in the know. But at the end of the day, like, where's your best chance to win? And it's probably not here right now. I think, obviously you want that to change and you want them to improve. And that's going to, if they go over 500 and go into the playoffs next year or something, like, they've changed their, ranking as a destination for players. But right now, I just don't see it being there. So, I mean, I could see them signing some international guys. I just wouldn't call it, the upper crust of who's available.
Okay. Yeah, because we haven't really we saw what Cherington did with the Red Sox when he was given the opportunity to spend money. And there were some splashy contracts that didn't quite work out there. Maybe he'll have to play a little bit tighter with the
I don't know if you've ever read
in Pittsburgh.
Homegrown, by the way. Have you ever read Alex Spires' book? Really good book. Sorry to usurp the topic, but it's something that I tend to bring up when people talk about Cherington spending money and spending money poorly in Boston, which he did. He was also strong armed by ownership in a lot of that to you have to sign these guys. This is the way you're going to do it. That's not necessarily in Ben's DNA. I don't think that's that's not a model that they're looking to follow. That's probably stating the obvious, but I don't think they look at, oh, we're going to go out and fix this with contracts. Key things where you identify a weakness, which they clearly have a weakness in pitching, and they're going to go out and fix it. That's fine. But it's not always about signing these big ticket free agents. And sorry, that might sound like a defense of the organization's lack of spending, but it's more strategy, just how they want to spend their dollars.
If you think about the casual fan, they're going to look at the organization and say they're not spending money because Nutting doesn't want to. But we've also read that Nutting was very involved in bringing back Kutch, was very involved in making sure that Reynolds' contract happened.
Yep.
So to some extent, he is okay with spending money to make sure that there's at least some kind of stability, or maybe players are happy, just whatever the reasoning is, he's not opposed to it. I
mean, one of my arguments, sorry to take this down a different path, but you go to Seven Springs and I know it's different now, that they're not actually owning it, but I mean, it's not like that's some dilapidated mess, or that was some dilapidated mess when Bob owned it. He spent money on it. The guy spends money on things that he believes. Is he too cautious? Yes. Is this rebuild taking longer than it should? Yes. Did they wait too long to do it? Yes. But I mean, they got the payroll to $100 million in 2016. And then they drafted like crap. They didn't get anything internationally. They developed guys poorly. They became stubborn. They did a lot of things that were very bad. But the payroll was at $100 million. That's fact. They've extended Key Bryan. They've extended Bryan. I believe they're going to extend Mitch Keller. That's 3 big ticket contracts in the past 3 years. They made the absolute right pick with Paul Skeens, in my opinion. Their drafting, I would argue, to this point has been better. We don't know. It's still sort of TBD. But my argument on Bob is that he will spend when it's necessary. Will he spend enough? Probably not. At least for people in this market, I don't think it's. I also just don't think that's how they view sustained success, right, wrong, or indifferent. They want to get to something where it's sort of a narrow band. They never want to go too low. They're never going to go too high. They want to, view this almost a little bit like Arizona, to be honest with you. It's not a perfect comp, but, they want to grow payroll, and then they want to be able to sustain payroll and not have to tear it all down and go this scorched earth rebuild like they did. So I think part of what they're doing in targeting contracts and how they're building this thing is to sort of lay out a plan for that.
I don't want to make this comp or steer it down that road, but is the mentality with teams that have a more limited budget, like maybe Arizona and Pittsburgh, similar to the comments which Dipoto over in Seattle said, trying to win 84 years and stay in that kind of targeted zone?
Yeah. I think that's more true than it's wrong, put it that way. I can't say that that's the same playbook that the Pirates are using or anything like that. But I mean, I certainly think Dipoto was onto something. That's, something that they feel you don't want to ever go in the tank and lose it the way the Pirates did. And, I also don't think that's wrong. Like the way they're doing things, they're going to lose guys to free agency. They're going to have to make difficult trades. They're going to have things turn over when guys reach a certain point of their contract. But they should theoretically have young players coming up, growing. I refer to it a lot as backfill. And how do you sustain what Dipoto's talking about? Basically, like, we're average, but if we really have something lined up, we feel like that's going to be a year where we really jump in and go for it. People are going to hate that idea. I understand, like fans want to see their team go 100 miles an hour all the time. And I think that's why you should have a cap and a floor in baseball. That's my own personal feeling. Like you should take that power out of GMs and owners' hands and say, like, this is what, you have to spend at least this much, and you're not going to go spend $350 million because that's insane. But yeah, I mean, I think Dipoto's onto something, and I think that's sort of why the Pirates are doing what they're doing. And I think it's also a smart strategy for them. I say this all the time, and this is something I put on there about the, thing I did about the Diamondbacks and the Rangers, and even an earlier piece in the postseason. There's nothing preventing the Pirates from going out and drafting players, drafting smartly, developing players, getting guys internationally. They have the same access to all of these guys as the Dodgers do, the Braves do. Those guys have just done a better job with it. They've found more talent. They've developed it better.
We definitely have some exciting prospects coming up, and hopefully they'll be more splashy and international. Some of those prospects also there, but pivoting back to the existing members. Gold Glove nominations dropped recently. The reign of Arenado appears to have ended as Ke'Bryan Hayes looks poised for his first Gold Glove over, hopefully over Braves' Austin Riley, Rockies' Ryan McMahon. But I want to talk about whether he should be in the conversation for the Platinum Glove as well. He was just announced as the Fielding Bible Defensive Player of the Year. Obviously, he won the Fielding Bible Award at third base. Kind of a given there. And then in the National League, only Tatis of the Padres has more defensive runs saved. Tatis and Doyle of the Rockies are ahead of him in total zone rating. Outs above average, only bested by Cubs' Dansby Swanson. But the way that it's determined, with the Gold Gloves being announced and then the Platinum Glove, is by fan voting, kind of like the All-Star Game starters, kind of gives less credence to the accuracy of this award, gives more the popular player getting the award despite how good Hayes has been, because he just quietly puts up these great defensive numbers. As Fielding Bible, they posted an article about it. Does he have a chance at Platinum once he finally gets gold this year?
I think so. I really do. I think the tide has finally started to turn with how people view him. And sadly, it's because he stayed on the field and produced offensively. And that's completely incongruent to me to the defensive argument, but it's true. And I think people are starting to, because he's putting up legitimate numbers. He's just not a strong fielder who happens to get hurt a lot and he's light hitting. Had a really good offensive season, and it's causing people to take note. And they're like, oh yeah, this guy's a really good defensive player. Like, you can go back and look at defensive metrics, and we've done this. What I'm saying is, like, people outside of Pittsburgh, I think, are starting to take note of this and say, like, holy crap, this guy, since he came into the league, has been like the best defensive player. And I don't know if it's going to wind up being like sort of a course correcting situation, but I think people are realizing just how darn good this guy is. And once again, this is something that you and I and listeners of this podcast and Pirates fans, I think, like, we know, we see it. You see Ke'Bryan play. It's not a surprise, but try to imagine not seeing him play every day and it being the Pirates and they're not a national discussion topic. And, yes. So I think there's a lot of things there to sort of alert people to Ke'Bryan Hayes. Him winning the Fielding Bible's Defensive Player of the Year, I think, is a big step in that direction. Just the what's the word I'm looking for? The massive amount of space between Ke'Bryan and other third basemen, and, like, as a result, Ke'Bryan and other players, period. How do you not take note of that? Like, if you look at sort of the argument for a most valuable player, like, it's most valuable relative to your teammates, what you're helping people do, your position, other people in your sort of stratosphere. Ke'Bryan defensively, if we talk about a Platinum Glove, is blowing everybody out of the water. How is that not going to be rewarded with the Platinum Glove? Like, McHenry and I were talking about this last night, and I was almost like a bit of, not a jerk about it, but I'm like, how does he not win? I don't know. Like, forget the argument that he should win. Give me an argument that he shouldn't win. I don't get that at all. Like, do we really think Fernando Tatis Jr., relatively speaking, is a better defensive player than Ke'Bryan Hayes? Not in my opinion. Maybe there are people out there that think that. I know what defensive run saved says. I also know what my eyes say. And I'm taking Ke'Bryan Hayes as a better defensive player every day of the week.
I'm really hoping that's the case. I mean, you're preaching to the choir. I've been a key believer for a long time.
And again, like anybody who's seen him, this isn't even a discussion. You know, that's the crazy part to me. Like if you've seen him play, he has more errors than he probably should have because he creates problems for himself. Like he gets to balls that other guys just wouldn't get to, and it's just automatically a hit. Ke'Bryan gives himself a chance because of athleticism. And I don't mean like a ball that ticks off his glove. Like that's naturally going to be scored a hit, but just like putting himself in position to try to make all these plays. Like I don't know, man. Like you said earlier, I watched 130 games, 140 games of this season. I probably saw every game that Key played. It makes you shake your head. You like run out of ways to describe it. Honestly, it's so good.
Yeah. If for listeners, if you haven't read it, check out the SIS article just dropped on Thursday with the breakdown of pretty much how good Key is compared to Machado, McMahon, Arenado historically. They said that he plays more shallow than any third baseman in baseball, and he still gets to everything.
Yep.
Because like even the hard hits, he just has these instincts. He's just so good. Could talk about Key all day. But I don't want to take up all your time on that. There is still a lot of ongoing discussion related to the Pirates' broadcasting rights next season and whether MLB will take over, if the Pirates continue to be paired with the Pens under the Fenway Sports Group. Is there word, is the discussion still ongoing and currently could be decided at some point? And how could this impact any kind of spending plan for this offseason?
I was just looking something up as we were talking, and this cracks me up. Sorry. Austin Riley, Alex Bregman, and Manny Machado. They have combined for 18 defensive runs saved, which still does not equal that of Ke'Bryan Hayes.
He should be, 21?
Yeah, 21. Anyway, to the TV rights thing. I can't get past that. Like, Ke'Bryan, Platinum, it's such a foregone conclusion. So, with the TV rights thing, man, I think this is a fascinating topic. And it's tough. Like, I've been asked, what's going on with this? Where's their, is there news? What's an update? There really isn't. What I know about it is that it's very active, going back and forth, negotiating with FSG, with MLB. There are perks and downsides to both ends of this. If you go the MLB route, a guy that used to work at AT&T Sportsnet, Doug Johnson, is with MLB and handles like sort of the liaisonness or the liaising of making this stuff happen. And that's a plus. Like he understands the market. He understands what the Pirates need, whatever. On the other hand, you have FSG, who they're doing the Sportsnet Pittsburgh thing. And if anybody's watched the Penguins telecasts, I think they do a really good job. I like their setup. I like a lot of the talent over there. But anyway, you're seeing that and you're seeing what they're going for. It's also going to be tough for FSG and Nesson and Sportsnet Pittsburgh and all the people involved in this to run a channel with only one team. They need the Pirates inventory. They need, a bunch of Pirates games, a bunch of Pirates content, a bunch of Pirates staff. It makes everything work better. So, there are like the Pirates are basically in the middle of two entities that it would really help them to have their rights. And as much as people might be frustrated about the Pirates, they do well on TV. Not the Yankees or the Red Sox, but like for what they are, they've done fine. So the Pirates are sort of balancing out what the best deal is for them. How much money can they get from the AT&T or Sportsnet Pittsburgh thing, which I understand was not, did not look good the first time around. The first discussions that Nutting had with FSG people did not lead to much. I think is probably fairly typical of negotiations. You could probably say that they lowballed them, whatever, and they've gone back and those offers have improved. At the same time, you've got the MLB option, which probably isn't ideal from a content standpoint for the Pirates. Whereas like they do shortened pre and post game stuff. They do like 15 minutes. And it's as simple as like, if they go the MLB route, it might be like Greg Brown and Joe Block handling the pregame themselves. No like Rob King, Robbie, Dan Potash at a booth or at a desk, something like that. Like it's very tightened. They don't do any weekly magazine shows like Inside Pirates Baseball. That might be lost. And for a team like the Pirates, it has to get out a message about young guys and talk about this stuff. It's not great. So they sort of want that editorial control. They want to be able to talk about themselves, promote themselves. They would have that for days at NESN, and it would also be sort of the most like a regional sports network setup that Pirates fans are used to now. So again, there's not a lot of clarity on which direction they're going to go, but hopefully that blabbing led to a little bit of like what they're looking at, what they're thinking about, the positives, the negatives, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think on the outside, because this is all closed door, we have no idea what's going on. It's basically just like Fort was doing the podcast circuit last week and was talking to a couple of the guys about his opinions on it.
Didn't he?
Yeah.
I think he hit every podcast in Pittsburgh. I forgot
he did a bunch of them. Yeah, no.
I love Fort. He's such a good
I'll have
to
reach out to him because I didn't have him on mine, but I'll get him sometime in the off season.
Oh man,
I had him on in like mid season, but he's a busy guy. He's got like 3 different podcasts he's running now.
He's not that busy. He acts like he's busy. He's not that busy.
He's got other stuff. But is this something where it's going to potentially run into like spring training or beyond?
No, I don't think so. I don't.
Okay.
I think they would like to have all of this sorted out. I don't have a deadline. Like, I'm not saying it's next week or whatever, but there should be no reason for this to bleed into spring training. They should have everything set up. There is going to be a drop dead date. I mean, like any negotiation, there should be. They should realize what they're going to get in each place. And I would also say that this is one theory I've heard a couple times. It doesn't have to be like a 10-year deal. You know, they could go to MLB for a year and say, we're going to see how this works and we'll talk again next year. And, you know, that might make sense. It really might. And, you know, I think, and again, I don't know which way they're going to go. It honestly changes. Like 2 weeks ago, I was hearing the MLB thing was like great. And last week, it's more, the NESN thing really picked up. So, I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to it. But I could see it making sense where you go to the MLB thing for a year, see what it looks like, and you're like, I don't know about, you know, we're really missing a lot. Like our fans are missing pre and post game. We're not getting out our message the way we want to. And then you restart talks with Sportsnet Pittsburgh. And I mean, if Sportsnet Pittsburgh is not giving the Pirates a deal that is favorable to them, because like the MLB thing is basically promising 80% of their existing TV contract. So if Sportsnet is not beating that at a number that the Pirates like, Pirates say, screw it, we're going to go to MLB. And if Sportsnet Pittsburgh said, well, that's above our price line, then you go that way. But then, you know, a year into that, Sportsnet Pittsburgh might say, well, we really need this to look a little different. Let's change our price. You know, so it's just negotiation. I'm not saying that's the way it's going to go. I don't know. But I'm just saying there's a lot of like active discussions back and forth.
All right. Well, hopefully that gets resolved soon, but that will wrap it up for all of us here at the 412 Double Play Podcast. Thank you, Jason, for joining us today. Do you have anything coming up in the next week? Articles, stories dropping?
Nothing huge. I've been doing some stuff outside of baseball just to sort of cleanse my palate a little bit. I have something going on about East Palestine, Ohio. Some athletic programs there. Certainly no Pirates connections whatsoever.
Okay.
I'm working on a story about Chris Young, who I don't know if you knew. This was news to me that he was a Pirates draft pick, the Rangers GM, third round pick in 2000. Yes, that's right,
Rangers GM. Yeah,
former Hickory Crawdads, great. So yeah, I think that's about all I have on the dot. I might have one or two more things, but yeah, it's just finding odd things.
Cool. All right. Well, you can follow him on X, Twitter, however you call it, at JMackeyPG. Catch him on Pitching In Podcast with the Fort, who is just so busy, just so very busy. You can follow me on X at 412 Double Play. Continue listening to the show. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, now on YouTube, wherever else podcasts are found. Make sure to subscribe so you get notified when we drop our new episodes. From all of us here at the 412 Double Play Podcast, thank you for joining us, and let's go Bucks.